Good morning. It is 1 minute after 10, which means that Professor Muckler is going to mark me late to class. He does not like that, and I understand and I respect it. That if you say 10 o'clock and you expect people to be there at 10 o'clock, then at 9:59 you're sitting there and you're ready to turn your mics on and be live at 10 o'clock. So it's 10:01, and we are here. It's Red Friday morning caffeine. We're going to just touch briefly upon Red Friday. Everyone knows that it is Remember. Everyone deployed on Friday. You see the memes all over Facebook and broadcasts on it on YouTube every Friday. We take a minute or two throughout the day, I like to say it, to think about everybody who is deployed around the world defending the United States of America. Also, as Bill has said in the last few weeks, deployment doesn't necessarily mean outside of the country. If you're here in the United States on duty, active duty, you have been deployed. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill. We might touch briefly for a second or two because we do have always kind of joked around seriously that on Friday everybody wears a red shirt. Bill was wearing a red hat. Last week he talked about the black shirt. So we'll turn it over to Bill. And let's go.
Thank you, Dave. Actually, Dave's become a greater advocate for Red Friday than I am, I think. He's doing a great job and he's wearing red, so that's a good thing. When I talk about thinking about our young men and women who are on active duty here in the States as being deployed, what I'm talking about is they can be gone in a heartbeat. I mean, it's not like when the old Marine was in and we had to go by ship and everything had to be planned out. They can get on an airplane. They can be in the Far East or Africa or someplace in harm's way in less than 24 hours. And to me, that means they're deployed and they're all being readied and trained to be deployed. I do want to talk a little bit about our military. And I guess maybe more talk about just what's going on. We saw the convention this week with the DNC, and we saw the Hamas and supporters and the Free Palestine people out there, and we still have hostages in Gaza. Now, why would I bring this up? Well, some of the Israeli forces that they're known as the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, IDF, some of them have dual citizenship with America. So we actually have Americans on the ground, but they're not American military units. They are with the IDF. Now, they're talking about, we gotta free the hostages. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm afraid there aren't any hostages anymore, Dave. I think they're all gone. And when I say that, let's just think about this from a practical point of view. Dave, you and I, we live in homes or condos or apartments or whatever, our viewers and so forth. And we got a lot of things going on. For example, we can get up in the morning and we can go to the bathroom. And we can brush our teeth and take a shower. We can cook our food. How does somebody living in a tunnel without any of these conveniences in today's world actually exist? We don't know what kind of food they're getting, if there's any nutrition. We don't know if their drinking water is pure or safe. We don't know if they can get medications they might need. Some of these hostages we're told are, like in their 70s and 80s and so forth, older and so forth. I just don't think that there's any movement in these peace talks because Hamas doesn't have any hostages to bargain with, and we're just going down this road with them. We're on the same path with them. Oh, we got to free the hostages. There ain't no hostages. I think that they're all gone. They're all dead. And I hate to say that. God, I hate to say that because they were kidnapped. They were taken as like prisoners of war. Unbelievable. And this goes back to October 7th of last year. So now we're in like the 11th. They've been there almost 11 months now. And we're acting like, oh, they're just getting along fine. They're living just like us. They just can't leave. Well, they ain't living like us. And they're just not going to work. So what should we do? Let's just wipe them all out and get it over with, end the whole thing. Now, why do I say that? Well, the Chinese and the Russians are hacking into everything we got. Now you say, well, Muckler, what in the hell are you talking about now? Well, what they do is they know how to make all the weapons that we have. The Houthis just fired guided missiles to hit a tanker, an oil tanker in the Red Sea that could cause a monumental environmental catastrophe of leaking all this oil. Now, who are the Houthis? primitive camel jockeys. I don't even think that they have indoor plumbing. You know, unbelievable. These people are so primitive, and yet, and this is where my expertise comes in, because this is why I did in the Marine Corps. They actually are able to shoot missiles from Yemen. That's where the Houthis are. They're Yemenis. Hundreds of miles into the Red Sea to hit a tanker. That's like a pinpoint strike. This takes very sophisticated equipment and training. My God, we trained for years to learn how to do this stuff. And to think that you can take a missile and you're somewhere in the desert, someplace in Yemen, and you're going to fire that missile hundreds of miles and hit a tanker, which is like hitting the head of a pin in the Red Sea while it's moving. This takes sophistication. There's somebody behind this. Well, we know who's behind it. It's Iran. And who's behind Iran? Because they're not much more than primitive camel jockeys themselves. You actually see what these guys look like. Oh my God! You know, they're still back in the 7th century, and yet they can do this. They can actually shoot off missiles with that kind of precision and sophistication, that they're trained to do this, that they have the type of equipment that can actually do this. This is nuts. So where are they getting this stuff from? They're getting it from the Chinese and the Russians, who are hacking it from us.
Okay.
So why aren't we here? And now we're getting down to the real thing. Why aren't we just blowing their asses right off the face of the earth? Because we've got missiles that can pinpoint locations too. And we can pinpoint where those rockets come from. We got satellites with imagery. We can heat detection, where we can actually tell this is exactly where they came from. People say, well, they move them around. This kind of sophisticated equipment ain't being moved around a whole lot.
Right.
We can do this if we wanted to, but we don't want to, because we don't want to escalate anything, because, well, why? I have no idea. But here's the hypocrisy of this. The Democrats in power, they talked about all week. They're into climate change and abortion. Okay. And when we're talking about the environment, they are really against oil spills. But it's okay for the Houthis to target and blow up a tanker in the Red Sea that's going to spill millions of barrels of oil.
Yep.
That's okay.
No.
You know, the hypocrisy of it is terrible. Now, I want to talk about the black shirt. Okay. My daughter got me the black shirt for my birthday on August 13th, and I'm wearing the black shirt because 3 years ago on August 26th, today's August 23rd, so 3 years ago, minus 3 days, we lost 13 Marines and corpsmen, young men and women in Afghanistan on this botched Democrat withdrawal from Afghanistan, which they completely screwed up. And not only were those 13, which I'm wearing black because I'm thinking about and I'm remembering those 13, but there were 40, 50, 60 more that were wounded, severely wounded, lost limbs, and unbelievable. So it wasn't just those 13. It impacted, 4 or 5 times that many that were not only killed in the blast, but were wounded because the blast doesn't just occur in one place within a couple of square feet. It spreads out for, this was a tremendous blast. It spread out and wounded, severely wounded so many others. They're still trying to recover their bodies and their lives from this horrible thing that happened 3 years ago. And so that's why I'm wearing my black Marine shirt, and I've got my EGA on here, my Eagle Glovin anchor, which has got some red on. So I got some red, and I got my red Marine VMAF, my Marine Corps Squadron 531, the Gray Ghost cap, which I wear in honor of my good friend Dave Vest, who was a Purple Heart winner and Bronze Star Combat B winner in Vietnam. The two of us, we actually became Marines together. Yeah, we go back to 1953, so that's a while ago. 71 years ago. 71 years ago, Dave, I started at Mizzou. I'm surprised I didn't flunk out of there. I wasn't much of a student. Oh boy. Anyway, let's talk about what's been going on this week. Yep. And Dave's got some things we brought up before we started in what I guess they call the green room. Yep. Anyway, we just went through the DNC convention in Chicago. What did I get out of this? What I got out of it is what I knew 3.5 years ago when Biden and Harris took office and were inaugurated, and the Democrats had control of the Senate and the House. We're back to the two things that are going to win them the election again this time: abortion and climate change. That's what the whole thing was all about. It was about how can we, and they won't say it, but I'll say it, how can we allow our society to be so immoral that they can have unprotected, irresponsible sex and just do away with the consequences of it and kill off the babies. And that's what we're all about, and that's our religion. Their religion is immorality. Sorry to say. There's probably a lot of Democrats who deep down probably don't really believe that, but they go along with the leaders because, boy, they are all in lockstep on everything. You hear them talk, boy, they listen to the same message, and boy, they are behind it. And we hate Trump because Trump went down to the border and he actually talked to the mother of a little girl that was raped and killed and stuffed into a drainage ditch pipe.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
So the other news, Dave, is this, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but there's more to it than just Trump and Harris. There's Jill Stein. She still wants to run, and she's still trying to get on the ballot in some states, and they're not letting her do it because they're all for democracy as long as they are in control of democracy and who's on the ballot. But anybody else that wants to be on the ballot, they can't be on there. And Trump identified this in his speech yesterday when he talked about whether we like it or not. It's a two-party system, and the two parties, they control everything, and they're not going to let anybody come in and take over from them. They're not going to let anybody into their game. So it's just the two of them. So Jill Stein,
Robert Kennedy won't be slipping into the debates.
What's that?
Robert Kennedy, who claims to have enough signatures.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's next. Now, after Jill Stein, or maybe not after Jill Stein, but along with Jill Stein is Robert Kennedy Jr. also wants to run as president, but he couldn't. The Democrats were blocking him from getting on ballots in a lot of states, and he was saying, well, I think I'm going to be on all the states, and the Democrats are saying, no, you don't get on all the states. So Friday, August 23rd, it's 10:17 a.m. Sometime about 4 or 5 hours from now. This is what Dave brought up, but I'm gonna steal his thunder. Robert Kennedy Jr. is going to announce that he is dropping out of the race. He is no longer going to run for president. So what happens to his supposedly 4% or 10% of the votes that he would get? Some would go to Republican. Some would be taken from Harris. Some would be taken from Trump. I don't think anybody really knows the true amount, but what they're saying is it would probably cost Trump about 4% of the votes. So now what's going to happen? If Robert Kennedy Jr. says, I'm just dropping out, that's one scenario, he's gone. Another scenario is I'm dropping out, and I think you ought to vote for Trump. Period. Okay, that's second scenario. Third scenario is I'm dropping out, and I'm gonna endorse Trump, and I think Trump is the guy who needs to win, and we need to get behind him and do that. Okay. Fourth scenario, I'm dropping out, and I'm not only backing Trump, endorsing Trump, but I'm actually going to campaign for Trump, and I'm going to help Trump get elected because we can't let these Democrats get in office, and we can't allow Harris to ruin the country, put the country in further ruin for the next 4 years. So I like the last scenario that I just gave. So you heard it first here, folks. I gave you all the scenarios, all the options you have, and I hope that Kennedy goes full force and supports Trump. Now, the Republicans have a little bit of a problem with Kennedy because Kennedy doesn't really support all the issues that the Republicans are supporting and so forth. But I think that he's not a fan of the CIA, which means, boy, if he goes out and goes after the CIA, him and Trump are going to both be in these burial caskets and burial parades because the CIA is going to get them. And I'm convinced now the CIA is just running everything. Oh, boy. How did we allow them to get that much power? And that's why we got to get Trump in there and hopefully just clean house and get rid of the top 6 or 7 layers of CIA personnel. If some of them are good people, well, there's going to be casualties, so be it. We got to get rid of them. We got to do the same thing with the Department of Injustice and the Federal Bureau of Incompetence. Got to get rid of all of them.
Yep.
Okay, Dave, you went doing all the talking. I don't let Dave get a word in edgewise, and we're both on the screen, so we both should be talking.
I just make sure I make sure everybody gets to be able to hear you all over the internet, which is fine with me. I respect the things that you say. My question was going to be, do you think there would come a time when Robert Kennedy Jr. would endorse Trump and go out and campaign for Trump And if Trump gets elected, become a Republican, a Trump supporting Republican, or is he just because he's a Kennedy and he claims to have maybe distanced himself from the Democrat Party to the independent, I don't know, buffer zone? Will he remain? Will he remain there?
Well, that was my fourth scenario, which is the one I'm hoping for. But as far as taking a cabinet position, I'm not so sure. This is something that the media is promoting that, they don't have anything to talk about, and they're a bunch of dumbasses anyway. So they come up with all these Looney Tune ideas. I'm not so sure that Kennedy wants to be a cabinet member in any party, to tie himself down for 4 years or something like that. He's got so many things going on that I just don't think he would want to do that. And I'm not so sure that would really fly with the Republican establishment, because Kennedy is not going to change parties. The Kennedys are Democrats, whether we like it or not. They're Democrats. Now, I don't think that Robert Kennedy is a Marxist Democrat like Schumer and Pelosi and Harris and Walz and all of them are. They're Marxists. Kennedy is still, more of the middle of the road, moderate, leaning to the right on a few issues, leaning to the left and far left on a few other issues, but definitely not a Marxist like the rest of them. But I just don't think. What's he in his 60s now? He doesn't want a job where he has to be tied down to an agency. And what agency would he be working with now? My son would like to see him be the head of the CIA. Now that I could. Okay, I'm all for it, Bobby. Robert Jr., go for it, man. If you're gonna be the director of the CIA, whoa, go for it. Clean house. I mean, get rid of him, because he knows where all the bodies are buried. That's for sure. Well, and that way he can get back at the CIA for assassinating his dad and his uncle.
Yeah.
Which is another thing, I guess, I'm not supposed to talk about. I'm not supposed to say that our CIA assassinated our president and our once attorney general. But
now
if they didn't do it, then why isn't somebody telling us who did do it? Because they know who did it.
Now you're 89 years old. You've been around this game for a long time. If President Trump called you up on the phone and said, "Bill, I want to give you a government job. I'm going to put you anywhere in my administration that you want to be," where would you go?
I would say, okay, I will be the guy who implements my 2020 plan, whereby we're going to implement the budgetary controls that I have elaborated in my book. We're going to have the tax plan. We're going to have the education plan, which is to eliminate the Department of Education. We're going to clean house, and we're going to get rid of the more than 2,000 federal agencies, offices, bureaucracies, bureaus, and so forth. And we're going to implement term limits on everybody. That's where we need to go. We need to do that. And I'm talking about term limits even on the president, because in my plan, I have the president having a 6-year, one term for 6 years. Now, how did I come up with that? Well, think about it. President's in for 4 years, and then he runs again for another 4 years, and he's a lame duck, and for the next 4 years, and not much really ever happens or gets done. Why not just have him in there for 6 years? He's in there for 6 years, works through the whole time, doesn't spend any time, because half the time he's spending on is campaigning to get elected for the next 4 years. So they completely eliminate that. Senators I have as 2 6-year terms, and you're gone. That's it. House of Representatives, 2 4-year terms, because why? They're in for 2 years. They spend as soon as they get sworn in, the next day they start campaign and fundraising and speech making and traveling to get elected 2 years from now. So 2 4-year terms, eliminate all that wasted time and get fresh new people in there. People say, well, they won't know how Washington works. Well, I don't want them to know how Washington works, because Washington working has got us a $35 trillion national debt and complete dysfunction throughout the entire system.
Very true.
Yeah, I'm all for getting rid of that, and I hope everybody else is too. So anyway, that's part. If you read those of you like Dave and I who read the book, we know how that would work, and it's more elaborate and more complex than that. But that's generally the idea of having the term limits. I also have term limits for the Supreme Court. 15 years, and they're in and gone, and some various things like that make some sense. Okay, what else were we going to talk about today? Besides,
we're going to get into the national debt. We talked about the military. I put that at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
As when you started talking about military, I wrote that down. But we talked about the presidency.
Okay, here's another thing. So I'm advising Trump. So I say, Mr. Trump, sir, you are for locking down our border, and you're for ending this invasion of illegals, and you're really against this transporting the illegal drugs, fentanyl, and so forth across our border. Let's take a look at the root causes. Who's behind all this? Well, the Mexican cartels. And who's behind them? China, because China's furnishing the fentanyl, the powders, the bulk part of it. I worked in the chemical industry as a consultant, so I know how all this works. They send that to China, to Mexico, and then the Mexicans they process it and get it into tiny little pills, different colored pills and so forth. And then they send it across the border to kill off our young people. So, Mr. President, we need to do something about this. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to put a 100% tariff off of every product that comes out of China to the United States. And we're going to shut down the entire Russian banking system. We're going to just cut them off. And by that means we're going to cut off their credit. We're going to cut off their money. We're going to do everything. We're going to send them back into the dark ages. And China is going to go bankrupt because they can't exist without us. And in the meantime, any shipments that's going from China to Mexico, we blow their asses right out of the water. We just do that. Then we know exactly where these guys operate from. We know all that. So what we're going to do is we have precise missiles. We're going to use our missiles, and we'll probably do it from submarines, so we can say, well, it didn't come from our soil. Because I'm trying to think ahead on this a little bit. We have a couple of the subs that we use to launch guided missiles. And we hit their headquarters and their manufacturing, their assembly facilities, whatever you want to call them. And then we take some of our very elite guys, like the real bad guys, like the SEALs teams and the MARSOC. That's Marine Special Operations guys. These are the real badasses. And we put them in there because the cartels have got all their minions working along the border and everything like that. And we go in there and we take them out too. And in the meantime, the Mexican president is notified by Trump saying, we're ending this shit and we don't care what you think about it or, how much they're paying you or anything like that. This is it. And if you don't like it, we're gonna declare war on you, and we're gonna just take over Mexico, period. And then you'll see how much you like it, So anyway, that's something that I would do. Oh, I see 6 is coming out.
Well, I was gonna say, with what you're talking about right there, it sounds like another book. This is 6 soft targets. Sounds like you just laid the plan for 6 hard targets.
Hey, I didn't think about that, Dave. You got a creative thing going for you there. That's an idea.
I don't mean hard targets in that we can't hit them. It's like you said. We have the technology. Trump used to say, hey, we knew exactly where this bad guy was, and we sent to Moab or something else. Randy Rhodes said last night that, and I've seen a picture of it too, but it looks like a full-size dog, but it's a robot. And it's a lean, clean, I want to say marine killing machine that it can do some bad stuff. But what's bothering me is where I'm seeing this is it's like Ukraine is claiming to have it in their war against Russia. Other people are claiming to have it. I thought I heard President Biden once say, we're giving all of this money to Ukraine so they can buy our technology so they can win that damn war against Russia. And I'm thinking to myself, if he actually did say that, what the hell are we doing? I mean, am I right that King George actually financed both sides of the war?
You're right.
So it was basically just a futile exercise, and it really didn't matter who won. He was going to make money anyway. So is that what we're doing with Ukraine? We're just sending pallets of money over there and making sure they understand those pallets of money are going to come back, and we're going to give you stuff that should end the war with Russia. Because I keep saying, and maybe I'm the only I'm going to word it this way, stupid Republican looking at this going, if Russia really wanted to end that war with Ukraine, it would have been done by now, and it probably would have been done without dropping any nuclear weapons because Russia wants Ukraine, right?
Exactly. And I agree with all your analysis and everything except for one thing. When you're saying ending the war, I'm substituting the word end to perpetuating the war because hey, how long has this war been going on? It's been going on for like 3 years.
Right.
And there's no end in sight because they don't want to end it. They want to perpetuate because, like you say, the banking industry, the banking industrial complex makes a ton of money because they're financing both sides. So they don't care who wins. All they care is as long as it just keeps going on so they can keep lending money for the military industrial complex to be able to make all this stuff and sell it to both sides.
Is it worse to think that maybe every time Zelensky gets a pallet of trillions of dollars, he picks up his phone and he calls Putin on his direct line and says, I just got $70 billion from the United States. Your check for $70 billion or $70 million is on its way. My emissary will either bring it to you or we'll just send it to your bank. And the two of them are just playing a money game. Whoever gives money to Ukraine, some of it goes to Russia. Maybe, like you said, to just keep this thing going, because I want to believe that Putin is a smart man. He plays 5-level chess like Trump does. You have to be a smart man to play 5-level chess or 5D chess, as they call it. If Putin didn't want this to keep going, he would have ended it. But I'm going to ask you a question. Does Putin want Ukraine? Because I keep hearing the main reason he wants it is because the United States wants to put a NATO base into Ukraine, or is there already a NATO base there? And if Putin takes Ukraine, the NATO base leaves. He's now kind of fortified that whole area of Europe. And, there's not going to be.
I've never heard of a NATO base being actually located physically in the Ukraine.
Is it a good place?
They're on the edges in Poland and so forth. Okay. Are they in cahoots together? Are they both corrupt? Yeah, they're both corrupt. So who knows what they're doing together? As far as Putin's concerned, I think Putin is probably a fairly intelligent guy who I think really is very street smart and a very good schemer. And he kind of knows how to play the game. He was part of the KGB at one time. These guys, they got a background. They know what they're doing as far as the dirty tricks game goes. So who knows what kind of dirty tricks they're playing between Ukraine and Russia. All I know is we're spending a lot of money in financing, this Ukraine corrupt government with arms and ammunition and dollars. And I just can't see where killing all these people really does the world any good. But the Democrats are all about killing people. They love to kill babies. They love to, anybody they can kill, they do it. They love that.
Randy Rhodes brought up a point last night, and I wasn't sure because I didn't actually have a chance to look into it. But did you see that Donald Trump was at the border, I guess, yesterday, and there was information that there was either an attempt planned. I don't know if it was actually carried out, but the Secret Service knew about it, and evidently he went there anyway. Or they didn't tell him, and he went there anyway. It might not have been yesterday, but I know it was in recent days.
It was yesterday in Cochise County. I watched the entire event, the entire speech with the people. And Randy's saying the SS had he's talking about the Secret Service had to take him away. That's not true. I watched them. When Trump got finished speaking, they just kind of very calmly just kind of walked, together off to where I didn't see him get into a vehicle to get to his plane, but there was nobody taking him away. And Trump said at the end of the speech, he said, "I just found out now that there's an assassination attempt on me." I'm just paraphrasing his words. He did not know about it. He didn't have plexiglass in front of him. He wasn't protected in any way. And he's not going to be that way. But for Randy Rhodes to say that the Secret Service took him away, that's not true. I watched him. He just walked away very calmly and slowly. They just kind of walked away, chatting with each other. And Trump had a suit on with suit and tie on. All the rest of the guys just had shirts or polos on or whatever, ball caps, and that's what they did. And the other speakers were there. The two of the ladies that talked about, their
children getting
their children, and the one, I think her husband was killed. I think I didn't get a chance to hear her talk, but I'm under the impression, I might be wrong about this, that her husband was one of the Border Patrol that was killed. Okay. Anyway, the lady Nungary, who talked about her daughter, I mean, gosh, she was powerful and emotional and everything. I mean, and her voice was cracking up and everything. How can we allow this to happen? We got to stop this. Anyway, Dave, what's I'm looking at the time. I guess I can look at my watch. It's 10:41. So anyway, we still got a little time left. What else? can we talk about?
So I'm going to flash this up on the screen. Randy says that he should. I should have been more concise that he ended the interview and walked to his limo. I paraphrased to keep the text short because he doesn't always do that. He apologizes if he was misleading in the comments. I did hear it. Like I said, we talked about it yesterday. My concern was that maybe if there was something going on, there might not have been necessary to let President Trump know, let him just go on with doing what he was doing and assume that the team had it under control. But I guess that's the wrong thing. My other concern is that if they start telling him every time, there could be something that could happen every time he gets out of the limousine or gets off the plane on his way. What's to stop him at some point from saying, turn it around, take me back to the plane? Then I said, I don't think Donald Trump will do that. I've also read that now I guess the Secret Service is going to be insistent that there is bulletproof glass protecting him, which, like you just said, I don't think President Trump wants. My question was that I was going to ask you is, does he wear a vest?
No.
Okay. Is he still, I know he's a gun owner and he has a permit. Does he still carry a gun? And not necessarily would he, I'd have to ask him, and I don't really want the answer. Would he pull it and fire it if he felt that he needed to do so?
No. We're getting into Looney Tunes now.
Okay. All right.
Trump is not armed. He's not carrying a weapon. You can see the way he's dressed.
Yep.
That's what the Secret Service is for.
Right.
That just doesn't happen in the real world.
No, I understand.
Let me give you an example. I was a Marine officer. Okay. Yeah. Let's say we're going into combat and I'm a platoon leader.
Yeah.
I have 48 guys that I'm leading in the battle, 3 squad leaders, a platoon sergeant, and so forth. I don't carry a gun. I don't carry a rifle. You know why? Because my job is to direct the people who are carrying them. I carry a 45 because I'm in combat just for self-protection. This gets back to this guy, this Walls, who was talking about carrying a combat weapon in the battle. Sergeant majors, master sergeants don't carry rifles. And he was in an artillery unit, which artillery units don't carry rifles. That's what infantry does. Okay. Infantry and artillery are 2 completely separate type of units. Okay. Trump is not carrying a weapon. Trump is not going to fire to protect himself. Trump does what he did in Butler, Pennsylvania, get down on the ground and the Secret Service covers him up so he doesn't take a bullet. Right. He's not going to stand out there. He's not Wyatt Earp or Marshall Dillon out there, firing a gun. And he ain't packing because if he was, you can see it. Now, maybe not everybody can, but I can tell.
No, I understand.
By looking at a guy, looking at his clothes, I can tell whether he's packing or not. He ain't.
Right. I wouldn't want, if I was the president, I wouldn't want to carry one.
I mean, that would be silly. That would be like he's Wyatt Earp and he's not.
No, he's not. He's not.
President.
I would be the Secret Service's worst nightmare because I would want to be in the crowd, shaking hands, talking with people, and
that's exactly what Trump does.
Right. And as I said, if unfortunately someone raised a gun and took me out, I think I said this with Randy last night, then that's just the way it was supposed to be. And I would have rather that someone raised a gun and took me out and didn't fire a gun and take anybody else out. And everybody got home safe. I'm still convinced that after Butler, Pennsylvania, Melania got on the phone with Donald and she said to him, you know what? You really need to think about, just listen to what I'm saying, because I know you're not going to do it, but you need to listen to it. You've got children, you've got grandchildren. Maybe it's just time to cash in and go home. And she probably didn't say it to him because she knew that he wasn't going to listen to it. He's a man on a mission. We want him on that mission. And that's just the way it's going to be. But as we wind down time, if he is not elected, I wanted to ask you, if he is not elected in 2024, he'll be 82 in 2028. If his mind is still there, cognitively, he's still there. He's still Donald Trump. He's not showing any signs of any reason why he should not be president of the United States. If the Republicans wanted to run him, should he run?
I think this is his last hurrah.
Yeah. I mean, I hope.
If he doesn't win this time, I don't think I just think he's going to say, that's it. I'm packing it in. I'm not going to spend another 4 years of going through this lifestyle of traveling all over the country, spending all this money, doing all this stuff to get cheated out of another election. I just don't see that happening. I did want to bring something up when he was in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yeah, this is where the Democrats, they can control the media, or the media controls the Democrats, however it works.
Yeah.
They don't talk about this. They don't even show it. But when he started speaking, there was a lady that was out in front of him in about the, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth row. And apparently it's hot as hell there. I mean, and sitting out in the heat. And these people, they get there at 6 a.m. He may be talking at 4 p.m. They're there all day. Anyway, this lady apparently collapses or has a problem with heat. And guess what happens? Trump leaves the stage and goes down to her to help her.
Yep.
And the Secret Service is like they're left behind. They're like in the wake of a boat,
Right. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Back there someplace. And he's down there and he's talking to the lady, gives her a hug and a kiss.
Bottle of water.
To make sure that she's okay and everything. And then he goes back up on the stage. There's no plexiglass. There's nothing.
Right.
He's not packing a gun. He's not waving a gun or anything like that.
The crowd goes crazy because we have someone running for president who did that.
Yeah.
Because normally you just don't see that done. I mean,
none of that was on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, or MSNBC, or PBS or NPR. That was totally obliterated. No one saw that. The only way you saw that was either on Newsmax or Fox Business.
Yeah.
Not Fox Business, Fox News.
You might see it on Right Side Broadcasting because they travel with him a lot. Too, but yeah.
So Harris has an economic plan where they're going to because they love to say in very demeaning terms trickle down economics, like it's something that is so evil and so unjust. It's like these rich corporate moguls are making all these billions of dollars and a little bit trickles down. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the bottom up, middle out. Yeah. Well, that's BS. I have never seen a poor person or a homeless person, a person on the bottom of the economic run, generate any kind of business or economic prosperity. It doesn't happen. And Dave, you and I are probably more like middle-class type guys, I would guess. Most of our viewers are probably kind of middle-class type folks.
Yep.
We get small businesses going and so forth. But how are we going to build this great economy unless we've got some support? So it's not like this bottom up, middle out. That sounds good, but it's so crazy. It's just unbelievably stupid. But people hear this and they say, oh, that sounds good. That's so much better than this evil corporate moguls with their trickle-down economics. We love it because that's us.
I could never.
Another thing you're talking about is, which is going to destroy America, which if I was Trump's advisor, I would say, Mr. Trump, you got the corporate income tax down to 21%. Harris wants to raise it up to 28%. That is going to completely destroy economic growth and prosperity. And I would say, Mr. Trump, really, the corporate income tax, the corporations don't really pay income tax because they either have attorneys, tax attorneys, and CPAs who figure out how to either figure out all the loopholes that they wrote in. Right. They use the loopholes that they wrote into the tax code anyway to get out of it, or they add it to their bottom line, or they don't give their employees raises.
Right.
So anyway, what I recommend is we go to zero corporate tax. Now everybody says, "Oh no, we got to have these people pay taxes." No, we don't want them to pay any taxes. What we want them to do is we want them to spend their money in research and development and developing new products and new plants and hiring more people. And if there's no income tax, money is going to come in from overseas. It's going to be like a flood of currency coming into our country because everybody's going to say we want to get in on this zero income tax thing, and our tax and our revenues to the government are going to explode, and we're going to be able to make so much money without the tax, because that's only about 10% of the total budget anyway. I know all these numbers. I worked them all out. That it would be to our benefit. We could actually reduce the national debt, which means we could reduce the amount of money we're paying in interest rates to the banking industrial complex and the Chinese.
So corporations don't pay any taxes. That means us, the citizens, us, the middle class, are paying something, but we work it down as low as we can. Like you said, there's 2,100 things in the government that we're throwing taxes at that we don't need to. But I mean, when you and I are on Social Security, so we're not paying taxes on our federal or our.
Yeah, we are. We're paying tax on our Social Security. Now, maybe our deductions are great enough that our taxes are at a minimal, but no, we pay tax on Social Security. It was never supposed to be that way. That was another thing that Democrats did. Democrats talk about how the Republicans are going to ruin Social Security, but the Democrats are the ones who got, and this was going back to LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, in his administration, where they got the income tax levied against Social Security earnings.
Okay.
Here's the thing about corporate taxes. Like I said, the corporations, they're taxed 21%, but the corporations lobby, and the lobbyists write loopholes into the tax code, and they get the Congress to incorporate that into the tax code. The tax code started out with 4 pages. Now it's more than 80,000 pages long.
Okay.
Who the hell wrote those 80,000 pages? It wasn't Chucky Schumer. He couldn't write 4 pages, right? And it wasn't Hakeem Jeffries, because I doubt if he even knows how to write. So it's the lobbyists that are writing this stuff, and they pay these congressmen. They donate to their campaign funds, and they do it on the basis of, we want you to incorporate this in the tax law.
Yeah.
So that goes into tax law, which is now more than 80,000 pages long. What's in those 80,000 pages? Doesn't take 80,000 pages of instructions to know how to fill out a tax form. It's 80,000 pages of loopholes of how to get out of the taxes. So even though the tax rate is 21%, the corporations, with their tax attorneys and their CPAs, they all have big accounting departments like you wouldn't believe to handle all this. They get it down to zero, or as close to zero as they possibly can. But then that whatever taxes they do end up paying, which the last numbers I had were somewhere close to $400 billion a year, and we've got what, a $6 trillion budget. So that's only like 7 or 8% of the income that's coming in. What happens then is the corporations, this is an expense to them. They expense it out as taxes. So what do? Okay, how are we going to make up for this? We're going to either charge more for our goods and services, or we're going to decrease our employees' pay or benefits. One of those happens because the corporations ain't in business to lose money. And I don't want the corporations to lose money because I got my IRAs and my 401ks and everything and my sub plans all involved in, well, now I got everything transferred over to mutual funds. I only have, I got a couple thousand in crypto, and I don't have any shares of stock anymore. I've got everything in the mutual funds because that's so much easier for a guy that's 89 years old. And I'm trying to, simplify all this and condense it all down where it's not so complex. But anyway, I want the corporations to make money, because when they make money, my stock shares go up and I have more money to retire on. So I can actually live until I'm 99. I won't have to move under the bridge and live there homeless because the evil corporations lost all their money and their stock was worthless, which meant my total worth was worthless too.
Yep.
So, the whole thing is there's no substance to whatever the Democrats put out. It's all based on feelings and emotions and how they can trick the American people into believing that they're out to get the bad guys. Yep. They're the saviors of the bad guys. And you poor victims, you downtrodden victims, and you oppressed people, because that's what the Marxists do. They talk about the oppressed and the oppressors. We're going to come in and we're going to make it so much better for you. But now we're starting to see where some of these on the street guys are talking to people and saying, wait a minute, the Democrats have been promising us this stuff for 30 or 40 years and we ain't getting anything from it. And we're thinking about going for Trump. But when they get into the booth, they probably won't vote for Trump, but at least they're talking about it. Yeah. Don Lemon sure had a hard time interviewing people on the street and finding out, hey, you're the same color as me and you're telling me you're going for Trump? How can this be? Oh, my gosh. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Bill, it's always a pleasure.
It's 10:59. It's time to let our people go. Let our viewers relax and
all right, Bill.
Shut it down and contemplate and think about everything we talked about.
All right. So next Friday, you think?
Next Friday, sure. Why not?
All right, Bill.
It's a lot of fun. After you go off the air, or after you go
I'm going to plug the books as soon as you go on.
I want to talk to you for a couple minutes off air.
Okay. All right, well, then let me do this right now and then we'll close out. 6 Soft Targets, the novel from Bill Muckler. I say because I thought Bill said that it was basically his blueprint version of how he thinks 9/11 was planned. If you sit down with it, although I've been busy with my life, with my groups on Facebook, and my wife was in the hospital for a week, and we spent a week in Texas with our grandchildren, and it's just tough getting back into life. But if you are a book reader and you enjoy reading, it's a 300-page book. You can probably read it in a few hours. And if you can't, then grab it and read a little bit when you have a chance to do it. And I'm the worst one to say that because I don't make the time to do it, but I'm going to do it. I got a nice big recliner in the house that we're moving into with our son and daughter-in-law. And it's a shared recliner. So during my time, that's what I can do. Bill asks a $20 donation for 6 Soft Targets. It's self-published. It does include, in cursive, no less. A very nice note. You can't really see it on here, but a very nice note from Bill to you. It's a $20 donation. He publishes it himself. That means that he works with publishers that put out small batches. And the $20 includes the cost of shipping. The Conservative Patriot Bible, as I call them, the 2020 books, 2020, A Clear Vision for America, 2020, A Clear Vision for Our Future. I know the first one was written in 2015. Last night I said I think the second one, Clear Vision for Our Future, was written in 2018 because I can never remember exactly when Bill said that he wrote it, but I believe it was 2018. These two books, Bill has always said, buy them. Don't worry about reading them necessarily in order. Look at the table of contents. Pick out the chapters that are most important to you. Read them first and then worry about wrapping up by reading everything else. When we get past 6 soft targets, maybe we'll move back to the 2020 books if Bill is willing and take people through some of them. 89 years old, and he is still talking about books that he wrote, and his commentary is still spot on. It's always a pleasure to have him on. Since he said he wants to talk with me for a few minutes, I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll send everybody on their way. I appreciate those of you that watch. Let me do a quick check here because I have to do it this way. Actually, I got to go in this way, and we'll get a quick idea of 106 people are watching. We sent it out to 47 groups. Yesterday, we sent it out to 54 groups, and the only problem that I had is some of the groups use admin assist to approve posts. And if admin assist doesn't see a headline on a post, then it kicks it out, and I just have to go in and give it a title and say who was on it and the date and everything, and then it's happy. So that happened yesterday. Today, I don't believe that will happen. I'm very happy with the 47 groups we sent it to and appreciate them for sharing it in their groups. And on that note, everybody go have a great, fantastic weekend. I will see you Monday with Randy Rhodes at 10 a.m. and we'll wrap this up right about now. This is the part of the program where I always say you have been listening to Boogie with the Bull, uncensored, Red Friday Morning Caffeine, a copyrighted presentation of the No Budget Broadcasting Company. That just simply means if you want to take part of this broadcast and use it in your broadcast, that's very well. I just appreciate that you might have me on your broadcast when you're talking about it so I can defend myself. And on that note, double B's for victory. This Boogie with the Bull broadcast is going to come to an end. And one more time, double B's for victory. This Boogie with the Bull broadcast